Let me ask you again, take a moment. We're going to take a moment. We're going to connect with ourselves. How are you doing? Just take a moment. Feel your body. Notice your thoughts. Maybe you're hearing inner chatter. You're still hearing the words that struck you in that poem. You're feeling sensations in your body. I know I'm hot. Anybody else? Oh, I see some hands. Thank you. Appreciate the engagement. Just noticing what's showing up for you. And being with yourself fully. Amazing. So I'm asking you again, how are you? Give me one word. Good. Oh, I love this. Yes. My daughter's waving at me. How you feeling, Jam?
Good.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a moment. Let's close our eyes. We're gonna do an hour meditation. I'm joking. Today, anyways. So just close your eyes for a moment if you can. If you're able-bodied and you can connect with your body, connect with the breath. Taking a deep breath in through the nose. Exhaling out through the mouth. Just feel the breath. Feel the breath in your body that supports you every day. The breath that no matter what you're going through is always there for you. A reminder that unconditionally, no matter how much shame you might be feeling or maybe how left out, excluded, rejected, unloved, that breath is loving you. Your heart beats from the moment it started to develop in that womb space. And coming back, opening your eyes. Great, you just meditated for an hour. We're done now. Which is good, right? Woo! So we didn't need to do anything but just be with the breath. I don't have a thing to change my slides, but I'm going to get you to go to the next slide. So I want to invite you into what I like to call my authentic, ever messy, perfectly imperfect, and deeply loving journey of being a human that has led me to where I am today. I grew up in Ottawa in unceded, unsurrendered Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. My mother is white Canadian from Nova Scotia, and my dad is Jamaican, Afro-Caribbean Black. So you know my house was very active. Although my parents didn't live together, each house was full of island vibes, to say the least, in very different ways. Looking back, I can assure you, younger Meg did not expect to be here today, doing anything like I'm doing now. I did not grow up with mindfulness and mental health support being a thing. It wasn't easily accessible, it wasn't known, and to be honest, culturally accepted. Things like therapy, mindfulness, and meditation were not openly practiced in my communities, in my friend and family circles, and definitely not in my school environments. For some parents here, I'm gonna age myself, I'm only like 22. My mom is hemming me. If you knew the 80s and the 90s, mental illness was a source of shame for so many of us. And mindfulness was definitely not even on the radar as a resource to empower our wellness in our communities. From my childhood to now, there have been so many experiences that have either empowered my authenticity and so many that left me questioning and doubting all the parts of me that made me me. I had big dreams, lots of aspirations, and felt everything and everyone around me deeply. I dreamed of being a professional backup dancer for some famous R&B singer, or joining Electric Circus when I got older. Who knows what Electric Circus is? Listen, you young kids. It was like a show on Much Music before Spotify, okay, and YouTube. And they used to wear like boas and colorful things, and they go, it was a vibe. Spice Girls were on there. I don't know if you know who they are. I'm gonna show you any more of my moves, I'm already sweating. I dreamed of making a difference in the world in some way or another that was positive. I loved love so much and craved to see more dreamers and lovers in our world. As you can imagine, or maybe even relate to, a lot of my lived experiences either fulfilled or denied me of my need for belonging. I remember many moments I was inspired by Black women doing amazing things that I wanted to do when I grew older. And I also remember not seeing us in many roles and spaces, or being told that I didn't belong or couldn't be in those spaces. This is what has led me into the work that I do now. But of course, not without strengthening my courage muscle to feel the fear of judgment, rejection, failure, and still pursue my dreams. Let me move on to the next slide. Thank you. So we have a quote up here. Yeah, good, perfect. When your dreams are bigger than the places you find yourself in, sometimes you need to seek out your own reminders that there is more. And there is always more waiting for you on the other side of fear. So Elaine is the author of More Than Enough, an incredible book I highly recommend. I used to do this thing that the author of The Gifts of Imperfections, Brene Brown, calls hustling for my worthiness. Anybody know Brene Brown? If anybody knows her personally, let me know. I love her deeply. So I've heard of hustling. Who's heard of hustling? I'm hustling, right? So I've heard of it. In fact, hustling seems like a positively praised behavior in our society. But little did I know, it is not always good for our physical and mental health. Hustling for my worthiness looked like, and we're going into that inner chatter, I will be pretty enough when my hair is straighter. I will be worthy of this rate, this business, when I'm enough, fill in the blank. I will be good enough when I have this grade, job, achievement. I will be worthy of belonging when I can just check off all these to-dos and goals, the never-ending list of to-dos. I will be lovable when my mother, my father, my partner, my child, my children, siblings, friends, teachers approve and accept me for who I am. Essentially, I had, and still sometimes experience, very pervasive inner chatter that shows up with language that is judging, shaming, blaming, and criticizing. I like to call it my shame gremlin. Next slide, nobody scream. Has anybody seen a gremlin?
Yes.
Okay, so there's like one cute one. That's kind of what my dog looks like. They say she's a Yorkie poo, but I don't know. Mine looks like the other one. Can anyone else relate to these types of thoughts showing up unexpectedly? Can I get a yes? Yes? Thank you. So I don't feel so alone up here, you know. No matter how positively you may be feeling at any given moment, it still shows up?
Yes.
And of course, for a long time, I left these thoughts unchecked, renting free space in my mind and my body. Compassionately, I didn't know that that was what I was actually doing, though. Before mindfulness and mental health support, I just figured I was doing the thinking on purpose, like I'm doing this, I'm thinking these thoughts. And there was something wrong with me for not knowing more control over what I was thinking. Do you know what that's called? The belief and the feeling that something is wrong with you, like your whole being is wrong or bad. Anybody know what that's called? If anybody's watching Brene Brown, they're gonna know. Anybody know what that's called? The feeling? Shame. I mean, it's on the screen. Shame. So one definition I really love by Brene Brown is guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is there is something wrong with me. You feel that? Let me say it again. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is there is something wrong with me. If you ask me how I'm doing and I'm not feeling like the generic good is the truth, I will have a hard time not sharing what my true feelings are. It feels like betrayal of self because, well, it is. And that self-betrayal has been identified by the incredible Dr. Gabor Mate as a source of depression. So it's important that we acknowledge how we truly feel when we feel safe to. My black bodies, you know what I'm talking about. Next slide, please. So you're seeing this graph up here, like, what is she giving us now? There's 2 black arrows going from left to right and a pink arrow up the middle. Even right now, as we all sit here, it may be very subtle. We're experiencing a push and a pull between craving and aversion. So we're human beings, not human havings, right? Right? We have a nervous system, it's primal, and it supports us in so many ways. It's the reason that we have evolved as humans the way that we have. It essentially supports us to be. Did you know your nervous system doesn't know the difference between you being afraid of a bear or you being rejected or being afraid of being rejected when asking that special person out or to your birthday party? Just like your phone's operating system, I was gonna say computer, but I'm like, what kids use computers anymore? Right? iOS, that's an operating system. Without us knowing or controlling it, it's running in the background. It can support our ability to survive anything dangerous, like an autopilot button on a plane. It just kicks in and takes over, speeds up your heart rate, pumps some hormones into your body to help you escape and to be safe. Now, in order for us to be able to tell our bodies and our nervous systems that it's not a bear that's chasing us, it's just rejection that I'm about to face, or judgment, right? We need to be aware of what's going on. We need to be aware of what's going on in our minds, what's showing up, what's going on in our bodies. And referring back to Elaine's quote on choosing courage in the face of fear, the incredible Black Canadian Rosemary Brown shares, next slide. God rest her soul. We must open the doors and we must see to it they remain open so that others can pass through. Inviting in pause to acknowledge what this means for us, for our children, our communities, the world as it's growing and changing. Just taking your right hand, placing it on your heart. Let's just take a moment just to breathe that in. I'm gonna say it again, close your eyes, feel it in your body, let the words ring in your ears. We must open the doors and we must see to it they remain open so that others can pass through. We're opening doors today, everyone. It's okay to feel that and be with that. All right, welcome back. Doing a little what we call it mindfulness micro hits here today. A little mini meditations. For us to thrive, we need to acknowledge with compassion and grace the survival state we experience within ourselves. This acknowledging can lead to sensations of grief, as our healing may entail letting go of survival and inviting in what empowers our ability to thrive. Who wants to thrive? I said, who wants to thrive? I got What if I said, I got a free ticket to Beyonce up here? Okay, I want that reaction. Damn. We cannot make change in our communities, empower others, value love and grace without recognizing we need each other. Caring for ourselves can absolutely be a privilege depending on our circumstances. Can we empower self-awareness as a responsibility so we can make room for our community to grow? So our caregivers, our community aunties like Adrienne, right? Our leaders, elders, so that they can recharge, they can rest and nurture themselves. So by caring for ourselves, we are ultimately caring for others. Does that make sense? Can I get a woo? Back in the day, we used to say, can I get a what? For us to be courageous, to face rejection, judgment, even danger for many Black bodies, we need to amplify and prioritize care, love, and connection. We need courage to do things that have never been done before, so our youth, especially our vulnerable and marginalized communities, can stand bravely in their birthright to thrive. Next slide, please. I know for myself, this year has been one of the hardest years of my life, and I mean year probably from now, last year this time, not the calendar year. A family member that's very close to me was diagnosed with terminal illness. I suffered fertility challenges, try not to cry. and loss on so many levels. It is also year 3 of living with COVID and the impacts of that on us. We may be looking, or you may be looking at me thinking many things. Maybe assuming I have it all together, that I'm thriving, that I'm the most mindful and the best meditator you've ever met. Guess what? No. Absolutely not. We never know what someone is going through, but how often we forget and get caught in our own stuff. When I'm out of my window of tolerance, I'm not in control, I'm afraid, I blame, I shame, I lash out at the people I love. I struggle like the rest of us. It's okay to feel the push and the pull of desiring comfort and pleasant thoughts and feelings in our experiences. And it's also okay to want to avoid unpleasant and uncomfortable thoughts and feelings in our experiences. Your window of tolerance will be in the green zone, meaning go. All things are regulated and balanced when you are at your best. Patience feels accessible. You're feeling good about yourself, achieving great things, experiencing belonging, acceptance, love, and connection. And when I refer to connection, I'm referring to it not just with other people. I'm referring to it with yourself, to nature as well. When you are not within your window of tolerance, well, we all remember the shame gremlin, the ugly one, not the cute one. That one may be driving your bus. And from that place, it's very hard to be compassionate with yourself and essentially then be compassionate with others. Next slide. Cameron shares this quote, "The hardest thing about being Black in Canada is the prejudice I face, and that's where my fear comes from." Mindfulness practice is not a practice to make us feel anything, including better than our present state or to feel calm. It is not to pathologize our vulnerable youth, our communities. It is not anything that constitutes as erasure or oppression. This also means standing in our truth, and this includes acknowledging that our experiences do affect how we connect with ourselves, how we perceive our experiences moment to moment. The fear that Cameron is expressing here is valid. Can we hold space for what we may judge as bad or difficult emotions like fear, anger, grief within ourselves, so we can also hold space for others that are in those same feelings? I recollect countless times as a child and young adult being told, "I'm too sensitive." Who's heard that before? "What you cry for?" "You have nothing for cry for." My pats was terrible, Dad. Don't cuss me out. Thank you. Or that we just need to suck it up and get over it. Or that what I was feeling wasn't valid, especially when I shared feelings of sadness, shame, grief, and anger. They're hard feelings. Why would I run to shame? I'm not gonna run to shame. Be like, oh yeah, let's go there today. That's the place to be. It's human to not want to experience those feelings. But it's also human, again, human beings, not human havings, to be in all the feels. These moments caused me to devalue courage, to disconnect from myself and others, and to become guarded and reluctant instead of open and flexible. We may feel out of control, afraid, unsafe, and even, hey, who will I be after I make these changes? Will my friends and family still love and accept me if I do? I've had those thoughts myself, and instead of trusting myself, validating how I feel and accepting myself, I've looked for the approval and validation of others. I've looked for the permission of others to be me, fully. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you feel that, thank you. To be me, explore new things, values, beliefs, even new hairstyles. I just cut my hair all off, just because I wanted to. That I felt more me in, and I believed what would be more me versus what I should be like. I needed to give myself permission. Next slide, please. So, mindfulness, we hear, just be present. Who's heard that? Just be present? Yeah? Do we feel like we know what that means? Yeah? Somebody give me a what you think that means.
Here and now.
Here and now. I love that. It's short and sweet. Thank you. We're going to get into here and now in a little bit more words. So this is where the skills of mindful awareness come in. So you can see up here, there are 3 skills. Concentration, our ability to turn towards ourselves. We did it a few times today. I don't know if you caught me, I took you there. So we turned towards ourselves, we placed our hand on our heart. We may have had a busy mind or busy sensations. We may have been distracted. Are we here in the now of all of that? That's concentration. Sensory clarity is our second skill. The ability to have clarity on what we're seeing, hearing, and feeling at any given moment. This helps us to get curious about where we are, why we're experiencing what we are and the way that we are. It also gives us the permission to just be, and that is enough. No matter what we are feeling or experiencing, it really gives us permission to accept ourselves deeply and live in our most authentic selves. So being present doesn't mean you're focused on one thing, that you're calm, or that you have one sensory signal that's showing up. How many people here are noticing they're feeling many things, seeing things internally, seeing me, hearing sounds, hearing inner chatter? Oh my God, what am I gonna make for dinner tonight? Did I go to the grocery store? Do we have eggs? I don't think we have eggs. Oh my God, I gotta clean that floor. Anybody else? The clarity of hearing, feeling, and seeing those sensory signals as they're coming and going. Guess what? You're meditating. Everybody's meditating. That's it. You don't need special Lululemon pants. You don't need a $100 cushion from Indigo, although they're real nice. You're doing it right now. And that equanimity is the ability to be present with what shows up. It's noticing the shoulds. Well, I should be feeling this, or I should be here, I should be able to be calm, it should look like this. That push and that pull that we were talking about between craving and aversion is the ability to be with that. But it's not driving your bus. We can stay in the practice. Keep practicing.
You got this.
I used to think meditating and mindfulness and being present looked a certain way, a way that wasn't inclusive to how I accessed it. It held me back from practicing for years, to be honest. So if that resonates with you, you're not alone. Next slide. It didn't look like practices I saw in my home and communities, and all those pictures of me are me meditating, because I'm practicing concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity, whether I'm dancing, seated, running, moving, journaling, cooking. It didn't look like my dad's grace and gratitude practice before eating a meal that I watch him do every day. The humming and the dancing while preparing yard food, as we call it in Jamaican heritage. My grandmother's dresser that was decorated with pictures of our family and spiritual items that supported our value of faith. It didn't look like dancing and communing to ground ourselves into our bodies and celebrate our beingness or communing over food. All the images that you're seeing and anything that empowers your ability to turn towards yourself instead of turning away, concentration, to see, hear, or feel, sensory clarity, and to accept yourself, your being, and what you're experiencing without sensory signals dictating how you respond and show up to yourself. Equanimity is mindfulness, and that's enough. Equanimity can also be our ability to recognize we are not our learned behaviors. So stay with me for a moment. I want you to notice your sensations as I'm bringing this up. No one is good or bad. We have good, or we can judge them as bad, learned behaviors, like racism. Racism is a learned behavior. It's psychologically violent and pervasive, and if unconscious, we know the damage. We are not our behaviors. We have learned them, and that means that we can reschool them through introspective practice. And I use the word reschool versus this trendy word of unlearning because cognitively you can't actually unlearn anything. I use my daughter as a perfect example. She learned to pick up a fork and use it a certain way and she ain't stopped. She learned to walk, she's running. You don't unlearn anything. It's gonna keep showing up. So this is where the practice comes in of turning towards being honest with ourselves about what's present and practicing that self-awareness. One of the most psychologically violent beliefs that comes from traumatic and taxing experiences like othering is that we are alone. That we are an island, not part of a collective human community. That we are the only person having this experience, these thoughts and feelings in this way, and that we can't connect with anyone about it. Do you remember my shame gremlin? The visual will be with you forever. Hopefully the kids don't have nightmares. He loves to live in this illusion that I'm alone and the only one experiencing something like a divorce, a miscarriage, death, loss, rejection, breakups, and so on. Right? That's what he wants. He lives there in that space. You're alone, you're alone, you're alone. You're the only one. You can't talk to anybody about it. We're not alone. We can hold and make space for each other's feelings and experiences if we choose to. It takes practice. I'm gonna move on to one more slide.
One more slide. Yeah.
Thank you.
You got this.
Beautiful bell hugs. Who knows bell hugs?
You got this.
Yeah.
You can do one
Love her.
more. I feel like I believe in
Oh, can we read this poem? I didn't write it down. Who wants to read it for me? Who wants to read it? I'd love to see one of our youth. Who wants to read it for me? Somebody stand up and read it for me? Yeah, you stand up and read it for me. Yeah, can we give her a round of applause? You know what that is? Courage. We need to recognize courage when we see it. Beautiful. Thank you. Can we give her a round of applause? Woo! That's courage. You felt the fear and you did it anyways, girl. Congratulations. Thank you for that. What a beautiful quote and what a beautiful share. So I've chosen to prioritize mindfulness teaching to educators and youth because I believe it's freeing and how worthy we are of a soft, connective, abundant, and soul-filled life. Being vulnerable in spaces of safety with people that carry us with love and have respect for our boundaries is a symbol of strength. Feeling fully is not weakness. And I'm talking to our young brothers. That you're told to be tough, to not cry, to not feel deeply. All of that, throw it out the window, please. We need you. My daughter needs you. Please, feel deeply. That is strength. The strongest muscle that you can exercise. And you got people like Adrienne here, and Jacqueline, and all the incredible people that are championing behind you to hold you. To our sisters, feel. It's not weakness. You are enough. We can rest. That is also a form of resilience and resistance. And that those are also practices that we need to invite in and set examples for our children and our communities. So I want to take a moment to honor those that come before us. First, my dad, because you know I love you. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here today. And my dad has been my biggest champion. I had racist experiences in this school board. Back, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but back in the day, early 90s, maybe late 80s actually. And he came through, and he was not screwing around. And he came to Canada, and he served in our Canadian forces, and he came with that energy as the one of in his platoon, the one only. And if it wasn't for him that came and did what he needed to do, I wouldn't be taking up seats and pulling myself up to tables with courage. So let's acknowledge those that came before us that couldn't do what I'm doing today, what we're all doing today, and had to sometimes internalize the trauma of being small or playing or fitting in. Thank the Adrians and the Jacquelines and anybody else I'm missing here that have organized this, supported this. And we thank the youth for taking all the seats, all the spots. And our indigenous communities that have supported our arrival, because we're settlers, our liberation, and reciprocated our need for freedom and to thrive on this land. So thank them as well. What I offer you today in my sharing is the importance of knowing that you are enough and that it is your birthright to thrive as your full, authentic self, all the time, everywhere, no matter what. I wish you all the freedom to choose yourselves, giving yourselves the permission to be, the free will and agency needed always to honor your truth, and to know that you belong no matter what. To know that you are enough, that you are loved just as you are today and every day. May you be filled with peace, love, and happiness. Ashe. Thank you.